enlisted as your Attorney General. Keith and I go way, way back. We have walked on many picket lines together. This is one of the outstanding Attorneys General in the United States of America. Thanks, Minnesota. Now, here for a very important reason, and that is I want you to get rid of your governor. Get him out of Minnesota. Send him to Washington and elect Kamala as well. Now, like Keith, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on you-know-who. But what I want to say seriously, before we even talk about policy, is the folks in Minnesota who may not agree with us on every issue, maybe conservative, maybe Republican, do you really want, as a model for your kid, as the most important leader in the United States of America, somebody who is a pathological liar? And that's really, and I say that in utmost seriously. Many of us are parents. I've got 4 kids, and we do our best to raise our kids to be honest, tell the truth, not to be bullies, not to pick on people who might be weaker than us. Then that's the kind of leadership we want in this country. We don't want somebody who lies all of the time, sometimes the most outrageous way. And I would say to the veterans of Minnesota, and I know a lot of veterans here put their lives, I do that every time. Knock over water. All right. Who put their lives on the line to defend democracy. We don't need, as president, somebody who has been working day and night to undermine American democracy. I've been in politics a while. I've lost elections. I've won most. Sometimes but in politics, when you lose an election, you man up and you say, you know what? Congratulations, you won. I lost. I'm going to learn something. Maybe I'll come back. You don't whine about it. You don't lie about it. And you don't try to undermine the foundations of American democracy by fomenting an insurrection to undo the election. All of you have seen what Hurricane Milton is doing. China, millions of people were displaced by floods. Then in southern Africa right now, people are starving to death because they can't grow the crops they need in order to stay alive. Then Saudi Arabia, temperature reached over 120 degrees. Thousands of people died as a result of that. Every scientist who has studied the issue understands that climate change is real. It's an existential threat to this planet. Donald Trump believes that climate change is a hoax. Now, not only is that incredibly stupid, not only does it stand in opposition to what all of the scientists believe, but it is incredibly dangerous. And I want you to hear this. If, God forbid, Trump were to win, the struggle against climate change is over. Because if the United States of America, the largest economy in the world, turns its back on trying to transform our energy system, China will do the same, Europe will do the same, and God only knows the kind of planet we will be leaving to our kids and future generations. That's what this campaign is about. You're finally going to get the help you need to raise your kids in these difficult times. We passed that in the American Rescue Plan, lowered childhood poverty in America by over 40%. We've got to make it permanent. In Vermont, and I know in parts of Minnesota, we have major housing crises, right? And it's not just homelessness. As bad as that is, we have 650,000 Americans who are homeless. You got tens of millions of people who are paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes in order to put a roof over their heads. All right, what Kamala understands, and what is absolutely right, we need to build 3 million units of low-income and affordable housing. And what Kamala understands and just announced the other day is that we have a real crisis in terms of home health care in America. You all familiar with that? And what that's about, he's got a lot of elderly people who would prefer to stay at home and get care in their house and not be forced to go into a nursing home. All right? And that's why Kamala just came out the other day with a program to expand Medicare to cover home health care. That's a big deal. Also includes expanding Medicare to cover vision and hearing. Like Donald Trump, Kamala Harris understands that workers in this country deserve the right to belong to a union if that's what they want. Why she supports the PRO Act, which will make it easier for workers to organize, and we will not accept these large corporations spending millions of dollars on illegal union-busting activities. One of the exciting things that we have seen in the last several years is a militancy on the part of the trade union movement that we have not seen for a very long time. Unions are today more popular than they have been in decades. Unions like the UAW, the Teamsters, and others have negotiated outstanding contracts, improving wages, working conditions, and benefits for their workers. We're seeing young people saying, you know what, I want to be in a union. And the reason for all of that, in my view, is that the American people are sick and tired of the kind of corporate greed we are seeing today. A few things you may not see on corporate media, or for that matter, in the halls of Congress. And that is, right now in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of this country. Got it? What we are seeing are 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. We are seeing the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. We are seeing CEOs of major corporations making 300 times what their workers are making. All over this country, the American people are saying, you know, something is wrong. Very rich are becoming richer, and we're seeing more concentration of ownership in America than we have ever seen. In sector after sector, agriculture, transportation, media, finance, wherever it is, you're seeing fewer and fewer large corporations controlling what is produced, how it's produced, and the price that you pay. So when people talk about inflation, understand that many of these corporations are making record-breaking profits by charging you outrageous prices at the grocery store, the gas pump, and elsewhere. So all over the country, people are saying we are tired of that corporate greed. All right? And they want a government, and they want an economy that works for all of us, not just the few. Brothers and sisters, no, it's not burning, it is you. It's you're going to make the difference. What you know and I know, and what Keith knows, is that real change in this country has never ever taken place from the top on down. No president ever has woken up middle of the night and said, you know what, I think we should do this and that. Presidents are always forced by mass movements to do the right thing. And that's what our job is together. Politics is not just voting. It is a lot more than that. It is mobilizing people to bring about the kind of changes this country desperately needs. And right now, you're seeing it up front. You're seeing it with your own eyes every single day, right now, in this minute. We have got to get big money out of the political process. Democracy is one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. We've got to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Run for office, run for city council, state legislature, whatever you want to run for. But you should not have to beg wealthy people for campaign contributions. And when we're talking about our vision for the future, it must include, right at the top, that healthcare is a human right, not not to guarantee health care to all people, and yet we are spending twice as much per capita as almost all of the other countries. I was, just a couple of weeks ago, I was meeting with this guy from Denmark. And I said, tell me, what happens when you go to the doctor? He said, go to the doctor. I said, how much do you pay? And he looked at me like, kind of weird. I don't pay anything. What happens when you go to the hospital? Well, we don't pay anything. They manage to cover all of their people with high-quality health care. They spend half as much per person as we do. And it's not just Denmark. We all border near Canada. They do the same thing, half as much. They cover all of their people. Brothers and sisters, the function of a civilized healthcare system is not one that simply makes billions for the insurance companies and the drug companies. It's one that guarantees health care to every man, woman, and child. That's a fight that we can win. We can win because that's what the American people want. But it ain't going to be easy. It's going to have to take on the drug companies, who charge us by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You're going to have to take on the insurance companies. You're going to have to take on a whole lot of healthcare special interest. And I want to say another word on an issue that gets talked about very, very rarely. And that is that not only are we the only major country not to guarantee healthcare to all people, our life expectancy, how long we live. You know, when you think about society, what do we want to do? Everybody wants to live long, healthy, happy, and productive lives. That's what we all want to do. And yet right now, our life expectancy is significantly lower than many other industrialized countries. And what's even worse than that, and this is not talked about at all in America, I'm chairman of the committee that deals with that, so I know a little bit about it, is the gap between life expectancy between the rich and working families. If you're wealthy, you'll live as long as people in other wealthy nations. If you're working class, you'll live maybe 10 years shorter than the 1%. Why is that? Tell me why.
The FDA!
No? Well, I want you to think about it for a minute. 1 minute. Think about it. It is healthcare. It is healthcare, but it's not just healthcare. Who said that? Say it again loud. She said stress. And here's something that we never talk about. And I grew up in a working class family, and I know what stress is on a family. You just think about it right now. If you are one of the 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, you go home and you're worrying, is my landlord going to raise my rent by 20%? And if my landlord raises my rent, what the hell do I do? I'm going to have to move out of the house. I'm going to have to find a new school for my kid. Massive dislocation. I'm a working class person. I got nothing in the bank. My car broke down. I had an accident. Cost $1,000 to get it fixed. If you're rich, no problem. Here, take the car to the automobile repair guy. No problem. But if you don't have the money, you can't get your car fixed. If you can't get your car fixed, you lose your job. If you lose your job, your life is in turmoil. You're working class people, you're one of the 85 million uninsured or underinsured. Somebody in your family gets sick. God forbid you end up in the hospital. You know what you're worried about? Not whether I'm going to get well, but whether my family goes bankrupt because we can't afford the $100,000 bill for the hospital. You look at that day after day after day, and stress breaks bodies, stress breaks the mental health of people. And that is why working class people are living 10 years younger, shorter lives than the rich. This is America. We should do better than that. When the UAW was on strike against the Big Three, and they did a great job and they won it, one of the demands that they made, and people thought that they were crazy, was not just for higher wages and better benefits. You know what else they asked for? A 32-hour work week. People thought, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Well, let me tell you what they were talking about. And again, this is not something you see on TV, not something you hear in the Congress. As everybody in this room knows, over the last 50 years, there has been an explosion in technology and worker productivity, right? Yeah. Right. Every worker here now, because of that technology, is producing a lot more than somebody in a similar position 50 years ago. Now, you would think, common sense would suggest that with all of that worker productivity increase, all that new technology, workers in America today would be making more than they've ever made before. Yes. Well, if you thought that, brothers and sisters, you're wrong. Yep. Real inflation accounted for wages for the average American worker is $40 a week lower today than it was 50 years ago. You all know we're looking at another explosion in technology in terms of artificial intelligence and robotics. And we have a choice to make. Either we let the CEOs of large corporations, people who develop the technology, the people who own the technology, throw workers out on the street because of that technology, or whether we say to them, you know what, if you're going to increase worker productivity, we as workers want that benefit, not just the CEOs of the corporation. And that's why Sean Payne and the UAW and others are beginning to talk about a 32-hour work week. That workers benefit from that technology. amusement, friends, leisure, education. That ain't utopian. We can do that. When we talk about the economy, we're going to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $17 an hour. When we talk about education, we got any teachers here? All right, teachers, thank you. These are heroes and heroines. In the wealthiest nation on earth, I want every kid to have the quality education she or he deserves. That means we pay teachers the kind of salaries that they deserve. It means that we understand that 0 through 4 are the most important years of human development, that we have a top-notch child care system, which is affordable for working parents. And in a competitive global economy, it means we make public colleges and universities tuition free. Under Biden and Harris, we have forgiven the student debts of 5 million Americans. Let's cancel them all. Some people say, Trump and others say, oh, Bernie Sanders, fall left. Brothers and sisters, everything I am telling you tonight is supported by a significant majority of the American people. It ain't fall left, it is common sense, it's what the American people want. Now sometimes I am asked, how are you going to pay for all of these things? And I will tell you exactly how we're going to pay for it. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the billionaires are going to start paying their fair share. It is absurd that you have billionaires who are paying an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses. That has got to change. Brothers and sisters, I don't have to tell anybody that we're living in difficult times and dangerous times. And what we have got to do in the next 4 weeks is to make sure that Kamala and Tim win this election. But I would be lying to you if I told you that is all we have got to do. Look, I am in Washington, chairman of a big committee. I deal with these CEOs every day. I understand their greed. I understand they have limitless amounts of money.
Oh, yeah.
I understand all of their campaign contributions. I see their bloody lobbyists every single day roaming the hallways of Washington, D.C. These are people who are greedy, and they want it all. And you and I and working families all over this country, we are the people, the only people who are going to stop them. So what we have got to do, we got to elect Kamala and Tim. But the day after, we have to build that movement, which is a majority movement. This is what people want. Nothing I'm saying is right. We cannot allow demagogues to divide us up by the color of our skin, or our gender, or our sexual orientation, or where we were born. We can't allow them to divide us up. That is exactly how these guys always win. On all of these issues, our people come together. They come together, we win. So we've got to make sure we don't allow them to divide us up. So brothers and sisters, next 4 weeks are maybe the most important 4 weeks in the electoral history of this country. Let us go out, let's raise that voter turnout. Minnesota always lets go. Let's do better this time.